Welcome back. So today we're going to do a quick cables in 4K because I haven't done a cables in 4K in quite a while, mostly because I am located in the United States and we have had tariffs imposed on our cable purchases. So it's making it very difficult. Like right now, there's a sale period on AliExpress. There are some promotional codes for certain cables. Those are kind of fine. Those bring down the price to sale prices, but then in the United States, we have an extra about $30 added to certain cables. And I think actually in these three, I think these two have the $30 shipping fee, which is not actually the shipping fee, it's the tariff fee. And then there's this one, which actually has free shipping. But for those of you who aren't aware, a lot of what happened with the stores was they still say that their prices have remained the same, but AliExpress is imposing a tariff fee that's sort of out of their control. And that's exactly what you see on these two. There's a $30 fee that's called shipping fee, but it's really just the tariff fee. This one has the fee included in the price, but it's making it more difficult for us right now, at least, to take advantage of some of the sales and the promotions that are running on right now. But these are three cables from ivipQ. If you look over there, this is the ivipQ official store. Official store, I think, is how it looks on their header. But this is the blue one. I think last time I talked about the purple ivipQ store. They are kind of a family of independently operated stores, but all tend to say ivipQ. So these are the blue boxes that you get, and inside you get the familiar ivipQ case for those of you who are into that. So the story here was mainly on these two. This is ivipQ 34. This is 34S, which is the upgrade to this one. This was 335, which coincidentally, I kind of blindly bought it because, again, with the tariffs, the cable stores, when they first went under the tariff scheme, some stores actually were not shipping at all to the United States. Some had select products that were shipping to the United States. So when this whole thing, when I started talking to ivipQ came up, I was essentially, I could see these two. I could see 34 and I could see 34S. I couldn't see any listing for 335. I had no idea what it was. And he said, well, how about 335? I said, sure. Send me a picture. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it looks pretty cool. So, yeah, this ended up being a super nice cable. It's kind of on the pricier side, but I had no idea what it was actually going to be like because I couldn't see any of the listing. But let's kind of move these out of the way and we'll kind of jump into it. As I said, the story on these, a lot of it begins with 34. And I've actually talked about 34 or a variant of it before. It's a cable that I call the original flagship. So going back a few years, going back to XINHS, going back to the original ivipQ stores, they started out as really nice upgrade cables, right? They had kind of affordable upgrade cables. They came in different styles of materials and different colors, and they were just kind of nice upgrade materials for those of you shopping for affordable cables. And then along the lines, they started to introduce more expensive cables. And ivipQ 34 was one that came up as, I would call it, the original flagship. It had palladium in it, which sort of put it in a different price point as some of the other cables that they were selling at the time. They call this one sterling silver palladium, and it's got 49 sticks or 49 strands of that mix. And I think there's one strand of palladium, and then there's 7N OCC, which is, I think, kind of the same thing. So this was sort of going back a few years, sort of the introduction of doing these multi-material style cables that were a little bit pricier. They were calling them flagships. Right now they have I think they sort of moved away from the flagship. Some of them are still called flagships. Some of them, they're putting ratings on them, so there are S-class cables now. But again, as I said, this one kind of goes back quite a while. And what was appealing about this one was, one, it was the twisted style braiding. So if we look at it here, right, this twist style instead of traditional braiding, which looks like this. This is traditional 4-core. This is what I would call the twisted style. This one was also modular. This one, if you look closely, it had SPC style with a silver foil wrapped around it, which we can kind of see right there on camera. So yeah, it was just a really, really nice cable at the time, and it was kind of $100-ish style cable. It went on promotion at the time. It went below $100. So, but it was just a really, really nice cable, and I still continue to use some flavor of it. I have one with a right angle modular connector on it as well. But super solid cable, and I was kind of read some of what's going on. So similar materials, you'll see this similar material on other cables in other stores. You'll see it in different configurations. You can see it in different thicknesses. But I really like the twisted with the modular. It was kind of always my favorite. This one weighs about 44 grams. So your typical heavy stock cables, and I'm talking about heavier stock cables, like, so a couple that popped up recently. So this is the Punch Audio Martillo cable. It's kind of a heavy 4-core for a traditional stock cable. And I remember kind of pulling it out of the box, like, hey, that's kind of weighty for a stock cable. And then this is the Celeste Yaksha cable, which is even weightier than that. So, you typically don't see stock cables in kind of the 37 to 45 gram range. They tend to be a lot lighter. I think those two cables are kind of right in there. I think it was like 37 and 42 or 45, somewhere in that range. Those are heavy stock cables. This feels like a very heavy stock cable, but it does have a resistance of about 0.25 ohms, so it will measure better than your typical stock cable, which is probably about 0.35 ohms. And as I said, this one is actually on sale right now. It's about $69. Those of you in the US will see about $30 of shipping fee on top of that one. So that is 34, and again, this one goes back quite a few years. The OG flagship is what I would call it. So they're calling 34S the upgrade to that. And I think, first of all, when I first started talking to ivipQ, I said, can we visually get these a little bit closer? Can you twist this? Can you make it a modular connector? And they kind of said no and no, because it's thicker. So, and by thicker, can we see that? We can kind of see it there. So this original one, as I said, it was about 49 strands plus 1. So combined, that was about 100 strands per core, which is what you see there. This new 34S is going to be about 200 strands. So you've got about 170 plus 20 plus 10. And the materials, they're calling it 4-core liquid nitrogen, silver crystal silver, plus graphene alloy coaxial shielded wire. So I didn't see a more detailed description of what the material actually is. They're calling this 34S as an upgrade to that, but I'm not sure the materials are identical, and they don't really spell it out. They just basically say this is 200 strands, this is about 100 strands. So this one also weighs a little bit more. It's about 52 grams. It is also slightly lower in resistance, which is what you would expect. Going from 100 strands to 200 strands, you would kind of expect the resistance to drop a little bit. That's kind of what it does at about 0.18 ohms, and the price goes up a little bit to 0.14. So if we take a look up close at this one, you kind of see that instead of a modular, you have this kind of patterned 4.4 on this version. You do get a different split on it. And what's a little bit harder to see from a distance, but we can kind of see it up close. So you see there's gold flecks in the kind of that darker brownish insulation. There are now yellow specks to it. So again, the yellow gold flecks, that was something that appeared on another multi-material cable that I've talked about, the black one, and it's much easier to see on the black one. The gold flecks stick out on this one. I don't know if this is the first version of the gray style installation with the gold flecks, but yeah, it's kind of hard to see them on here, but it'll probably be easier on video than what it is than what I'm looking at. So again, this one had silver foil kind of wrapped around SPC. This one has darker insulation with the gold flecks, still visually kind of appealing, really nice. But that was kind of the main story of these two cables. This was the original one, kind of one of my favorite cables. This was going to be the upgrade cable, but we can't twist this one. We can't put a modular on it. It's just kind of a nicer material. Now it is frozen. Now it is 200 strands instead of 100 strands. So kind of an interesting story. I mean, you don't see too many cable upgrades kind of directly where they say, well, this is 34, this is now 34S. So that really caught my eye as kind of a story that we can talk about. And this is going to be the third cable, which is the one I didn't know too much about. This is ivipQ 335, which they call Blue and Silver Emperor, but I would say maybe that translation was a little bit off, and Purple and Silver is pretty close to what it should be. But I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say it's purplish blue, but very, very attractive, very, very nice cable. Again, this accessory kit with kind of, the fancy, this one's the carbon fiber and kind of the knurled edges to it, probably not my favorite. I'm kind of fine with just kind of the plain one, but fancy cable, Emperor name. This is now 8 cores instead of 4 cores, so the braiding looks a little bit different. If you never see these kind of side by side, this is 4 core, this is 8 core, and you get this style braiding. This is kind of a thicker, each core is a little bit thicker. This is going to be a little bit thinner on each core, but you've got 8 of them instead of 4 of them. So very, very nice. But again, this one goes back to kind of maybe a similar story of this one. So they're calling this one a multi-element conductor, graphene and sterling silver, palladium. But on this one, they talk about it, and this is something I've talked about in the past, about these multi-element conductors or multi-element cores. When they mix a lot of materials in it, they tend to talk about it. So this one is palladium, 2 pieces of palladium, 10 pieces of graphene in one of the cores. Then there's copper silver alloy, pure silver, silver plated OCC, and monocrystalline silver plated palladium, right? So again, this one is a little bit pricier at about $177. It actually weighs a little bit more. Also, this one weighs 52 grams. So these two actually weigh the same. This one's just a little bit lighter. The resistance on this one's about 0.18 as well. But again, a pricey cable. You're kind of paying for a lot of materials. You're kind of paying for, visually you can probably put together something that might be a little bit similar at a cheaper price. But again, I didn't know too much about this one when I bought it. I probably would have picked one that looked similar but was a little bit cheaper and more affordable, because right now at $177, it's kind of a little bit pricey. And another thing, that for those of you who aren't familiar with how cable shops tend to do their pricing, especially during sale periods, this one will say it's about $1,185 and it's 85% off, down to $177. So that's kind of an AliExpress game of showing your cables as 85% off. No one purchases this cable for $1,100. They've probably never sold one anywhere near that. The regular price is some flavor of around $177, but during the sale period it'll go down a little bit, and then they get a little label that says, wow, now it's 85% off of some crazy price. So that is how that works for those of you who aren't familiar. So again, I want to thank ivipQ for sending these cables during a period where it's difficult for me to get cables at affordable prices. And this is the ivipQ official store, and I will have links in the description. So thank you guys again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.